Now there are some questions. I can take those questions.
Yes. Okay. I had a question for you.
Yeah.
The question is that sometimes procrastination helps since you let things fall into place and you go with the flow. Is that right?
Yeah, yes. I see. Procrastination, as I told you, is a habit everybody has.
Hmm.
But you must be able to see if there is something to do, you have to do at a particular time or a particular occasion. That you cannot afford to procrastinate.
Right.
Actually, the procrastination which you talk of borders on postponement. It's a conscious decision that you are taking to do something later on, right? Postponement doesn't cause any stress.
Hmm.
That's why the last talk I told, you have to differentiate between postponement and procrastination.
Okay.
Procrastination is that which you are supposed to do something,
Supposed to do.
but which is you actually, without any proper reason, you are deferring that. That is procrastination.
All right.
But which is there in everybody. I mean, I'm not saying, but some people it is very pronounced. Small amount of procrastination doesn't cause much stress. You are actually, it's sometimes relaxing also, right? You just say, okay, let me just take it easy. For 10 more minutes, I will, lie down and then get up from the bed. But if the 10 minutes becomes 1 hour, then there's a serious problem if there was something you were supposed to do.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Anyone has any questions? You can unmute yourself and you can ask.
Namaskara.
Namaskara.
Namaskara, Ganapati ji.
Shashiraji, how are you?
I'm good. Binaji.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
Namaskara. Thanks for this, session. I missed the last session, but the recap really helped me out in getting the whole, sum of it. One thing, argument, when we speak, in person, like the argument need not be in person also, even after we come back home. So that arguments start, reeling in our head.
Yes.
Eat out our night.
But during the argument, you don't have stress. The stress develops after the argument. You're absolutely right. You're
absolutely.
Right. Yeah, and you can lose your sleep because of that. And losing sleep means your health is getting affected. So what was an argument is actually affecting your blood pressure and diabetes rather probably. So you are right, absolutely right, because that is why argument you must avoid at any cost.
Absolutely.
It doesn't help us at all in any way.
The point is very simple. Even if it is uncontrollable, if it tends to really affect you and you cannot able to control that argument, my point is we should not carry it back so that it should be shielded. So that is something is very challenging for any human being. Okay, but
true. That's the best thing is the moment you enter into an argument, what happens is our mind is recording everything.
Absolutely.
And this mind will keep on replaying it. Absolutely. So the best solution is not to get into an argument at all.
Absolutely.
So as I said, if you sense the argument is beginning, change the topic.
Got it.
Ultimately, you will see arguments, except in court, it doesn't lead anything to anybody. It doesn't give you anything, right?
Correct.
In fact, arguments, for a spiritual seeker, instead of flattening his ego, it fattens his ego rather. A spiritual seeker is required to flatten his ego. But correct. By getting into arguments, his ego is boosted. He feels, I have made this particular point, I have made that particular point. So this is actually a very, very, and once you are full-fledged into an argument, later on to unwind is not a very easy thing at all. Not an easy thing. You have to go into meditation and do a lot of sadhanas in order to unwind from an argument. Still, after that, it will again come back. If you see the face of that person, those dialogues, those arguments will come back to your mind. But that's the state of, that's how our mind reacts rather. We can't help it rather.
Absolutely.
That's why best way is to avoid argument at all. The moment you sense, get away from it. Ask that, offer the other person some tea or coffee or cold drink or something.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
I hope there are no questions.
No, we don't want arguments. We want discussion.
We don't want arguments. We just want questions. Because whatever you say, I will not disagree.
Receptive. Yes, absolutely. Ancient school of wisdom.
There's one question on the chat.
Yeah. Oh, I'll read that out. Okay. So there's one question on the chat which says, they say you should be a good listener, but it is tough not to talk. How do we develop the habit of listening without talking or reacting?
Yeah, good question. And this is sometimes, many times it happens, and especially I have seen this happening in Indians a lot when in attending meetings and all that. Before the other person completes whatever he wants to say, people have a tendency to interrupt and talk. That creates a problem, right? By saying you should be a good listener means first listen to the other person and let him complete totally what he wants to say. In fact, to be sure, you can ask him, you have completed whatever you wanted to say? If he says yes, then think about what he has told, and then you can give a very, very objective response to that. Don't give an emotional response to that. You can give an objective response to that. You can even, it is suggested that you can even, when you are responding, you can use certain words like, see, in my perspective, this is what I think, but I may be wrong.
Correct.
So this, if you add this, I may be wrong, will actually take the air out of, if he wants to build up this into a big argument, he'll say, I've already said, this is my perspective, I may be wrong. So this is some few small tips that you can use when, when you are having a, discussion with somebody. First rule is let the other person say whatever he wants to say, complete what he wants to say. Most of the arguments begin when this interruption takes place. And that interruption goes in different directions. Some word you pick up and then you react to that, and that what you react, he has picked up one word from that and he starts reacting. You started discussing something else and you end up arguing on something else. This is what typically happens. So the thing is, you have to develop that habit of listening. Means wherever you are listening, whenever you are listening, listen fully, completely. And this I have found, like when I was in the Standard Chartered Bank, when we used to be in meetings, this discipline used to be followed by everybody. I mean, nobody will interrupt anybody, and if somebody interrupts, the chairperson will immediately point out, please keep quiet, let him finish what he wants to say. So this is a habit one has to develop, but unfortunately, I mean, it's nothing, it's probably an Asian habit, or I don't know, that, we have this tendency, even official meetings, somebody is saying something, immediately you interrupt, and then you second guess the other person. You think this is what he wants to say, so I will give an answer before he completes his. That may not be what he wants to say at all. So this is the only thing I can suggest, that listen to him fully, and then you can start your response or reaction.
Okay, another question. Does a no response to an aggressive person make me a coward, especially when I feel I am just and right?
Yeah, see, this thing like coward and all, these are all labels which other people give us, right? Suppose, let me ask you, somebody tells you you are a coward. How does it going to, affect you in any manner? Let him think you are a coward. What is there? What is going to happen? That's why I said, the moment you realize that you are a simple, basic person, and in any interaction with the world, you are playing a role. And in that role playing, you appear to be a coward to another person. And he says so. He says that you are a coward. Okay, the person who is playing that role person is a coward. I am not a coward. The moment you create the distance between you and the role that you are playing, automatically you will not be affected. Let him say you are covered. Let him say whatever as I gave you the example, the son is barking at the dog is barking at the son. The son should not, it doesn't get affected at all. Rather, why should it get affected? So this kind of a tendency you must develop, because these are all things, when we put emotions in front, we get into all sorts of problems. So if somebody says covered, let him say covered, and you feel you are right, perfectly okay. If you get an opportunity, express what you want to say. This is what I feel from my perspective. This is what I feel. You want to take it, take it. You don't want to take it, don't take it. You want to call me coward? That's fine with me, as long as you don't get physical with me and try to test out whether I can run away or not. But that, I said last time, you have to draw that Lakshman Rekha with everybody. That has got to be there. You can't, people can't take you and take you for granted. But apart from that, it's very simple. Okay, you call me covered. What is there? You call me. In fact, honestly speaking, I have grown up in a place like Delhi, right? And I am a South India. Typically in Delhi, we used to be called, I'm talking about 50 years ago, not these days rather. I'm sure that the culture has changed and all. They used to call me Madrasi, Madrasi and all that, right? And I had many friends. I used to play with a lot of friends, who are all Punjabis. North Indians and Punjabis and all that. And we were only 2-3 people who were South Indian, but we were very good friends. So while playing with children and all that, they will say so many things. They will make fun of your language. They will make fun of so many things. I used to feel so bad, and I used to come home and tell my mother that, that fellow said. In fact, this famous film actor Shakti Kapoor, he was my neighbor. We used to play together rather. And he used to make so much of fun, Madrasi, this, that, and all, language and all. I used to come and tell my mother. My mother used to say, by his telling you all these things, have you got affected in any manner? And I used to think, she will say, you go and think, how does it affect you? Just keep quiet, If you don't like their company, don't go and play with them. That much you can do. But if you want to play, there is no other person to play, you go and play. These are all children. Children will say so many things. So you should not take these things seriously. This is the, advice my mother gave me. Rather. And now I feel that was the right advice. You start to learn to ignore a lot of things in life. Rather. People, you can't change people. You can ignore people. That you can do. Any other question?
Yes, yes.
Do not advise your children if they are grown up, not if they procrastination. We keep quiet as a parent. No, we need not keep quiet as a parent. But we also should be mature enough how to handle this. Like I think other day Vishwanathanji had a very good session on parenting, right? We must, as I said in the last talk, as a parent, our role keeps on changing throughout the life of the child. A parent of a 5-year-old child is different from the parent of a teenager. The parent of a college-going boy is different from the parent of a teenager. The parent of a married boy is different from the parent of a college-going boy. So we must understand that you are the father. You may think that it's only one role I am playing. That role is fine. But the script keeps on changing. And we have to calibrate that script according to the stage in which we are placed in. So we have to be very mature and careful. See, even if you go on giving advice, what is going to happen? They will take all the advice, whatever suits them, and they will ignore whatever doesn't suit them. In fact, it could also lead to certain unforeseen problems, which is if you tell them not to do something, they will do it, but without your knowing. I mean, typically habits like smoking and drinking and all, if they know that the parents don't like these habits, they will still indulge in those things, but they will make sure that you don't come to know about it, right? So we have to be, especially parenting is not an easy joke. It is the biggest role, most character role anybody can play in their life. All other roles are all small roles. Even with your spouse, the role of a spouse is not, that important as compared to a role of a parent. Because even spouse role rather doesn't undergo much of a script change throughout the life. Some changes will be there as you age, but not much. There's a lot of understanding right from the beginning. But with children, They have come with their own vasanas, they have come with their own background, they're born with that, and very difficult for them to change that overnight just because you are telling them all that. So many times what, I would suggest is, whatever right things you tell them, and then leave it to them to take it or not take it. In fact, Swamiji, my Swamiji used to say that a lot of people used to come and ask him this question. So he says that you give the advice to them, and if they don't take it, it is their problem, right? So they will ask, it seems, what if they commit mistakes? So Swamiji used to ask, have you never committed any mistake in your life? Let them commit mistakes, let them learn from those mistakes. Make sure that you are monitoring them to the extent that they don't get into a irretrievable situation like taking to drugs or things like that and all, right? That's very dangerous. That must, a parent should, watch. Other than that, give them as much freedom as possible. Let them take their own life decisions. Because this is what they are going to tell you in any case. I'm a grown-up person. Dad, don't keep on pestering me. Let me take my own decision. This is what you will hear finally. So you give them that freedom voluntarily. They may even appreciate that my father is voluntarily giving me this freedom, so I should not misuse this freedom. So that may be a positive thing which can happen with them. Yes, you must, especially this is valid when the children are young. But when they have come to college, in fact, I used to quote an example that this freedom is one of the most cherished things every human being has, right? Examples you can see. Take your dog on a leash for a walk. Those who have got a dog, they will know. The dog will try to free itself away from you. It will start running here and there, and it will hate that leash, with which you are holding it. In fact, many people I've seen them running along with the dog. So this freedom, whether it is an animal or a human being, the same freedom, you tell a boy that you get up, when he was young, you say get up in the morning at 6 o'clock, he may be doing it. When this fellow goes to college and his college is at 10 o'clock and he's sleeping till 8 o'clock, and you go and try to tell him, I'll tell you what he will say. He'll say, Dad, listen, I'm a grown-up boy now. My class is at 10 o'clock and let me sleep till 8 o'clock. Don't tell me, do this, do that and all. I am now grown up. Let me have my own freedom. Let me take my own decisions in my life. This is what you will hear. If you don't want to hear this, be careful in how you are scripting all your role play with your children at every stage that they are in. And I can tell you from my own personal experience that you have to tell whatever is the right thing for them to do. Even though initially they may resist, they may not like. I have found that over a period of time, they actually realize the value in what advice they are getting from their parents, and they act on that. And this is my personal experience I'm telling you. That's why my wife always says, we have to tell whatever we have to tell. Let them leave it to them. Then what has to happen will happen. And if we distance ourselves from that role play business we bring into it, we have no stress. जो होना है होएगा, अपने आप जो है ठीक होएंगे. They will commit their mistakes. They will learn. That's all. What is there?
Good. There are 2 more questions.
Yeah. How important is detachment in certain situations and curtailing stress? Yeah, detachment is what I mentioned about, creating that space between yourself and the role that you play. That is basically detaching yourself and your all emotions, detaching your emotions from the role that you are playing. Play the role, don't become the role. That's what, is the mantra. Sirji, ego appears to be the main problem, and the enlightening ego appears to be the biggest issue. It is the ego, the argument, not the people. Yes, because the ego is a very big topic. We have to understand what is this ego. Whenever you say I, what are you referring to, and all that. So it's a very big topic. But yes, I mean, all the stress, all the problems of our life. In fact, that's why Vedanta calls it Bhava Roga. Bhava Roga means the disease of being, existing, disease of existence, the disease of existence, right? Bhava Roga. This problem is all caused by this ego only. The moment you take I, you understand the word I as, your body, mind, sense complex, and not as the real nature of yourself, this problem will not go away. So the solution to that problem lies only in self-knowledge. That is why all the sadhanas, if you see, all the practices which are advocated in Advaita Vedanta, in the spiritual path, every stage the ego has to be tackled and it has to be quietened and all that. That's why, when we are in the ashrams, when you go to a Gurukula, you are asked to do a lot of work, right? You could have been the managing director of a company before you went to the Gurukula, but there you will be asked to sweep the floor of the kitchen. If you have the ego that I was a MD, why should I do this job? Then you are totally misfit from the spiritual path. Go back and have your stress and live your own life. So, lot of practices, this seva itself, service, seva what we call, is the biggest sadhana for diluting your ego. So this you have to practice. If you are a serious spiritual seeker, then you have to follow certain disciplines, certain things and all. And that will, over a period of time, help you in actually neutralizing your ego. And then, that will itself create the distance, what somebody else talked about. In, detachment rather, it will happen. So that is, it's a long process. So you have to come to, if you want to do that, seriously come to Advaita Vedanta, become a student. My student or anybody's student who is a teacher of Vedanta, and then you can progress in that path. But it is a one-way path, mind you. You cannot come back in that. That's you have to be very, very careful. You have to take a very lifetime decision. That path leads ultimately to sannyasa. Sannyasa is the highest ashram that leads to that place, right? So you have to be prepared mentally for that, cutting all your relationships, all your emotional baggage, everything you will have to remove. If you are prepared for that kind of a spiritual goal, then yeah, you can get into this. It's a long process. Ego cannot be tamed very easily, but it can be done.
Thank you so much, Ganapati ji. I think that's it. That's the last question.
Thank you very much. I think it's taken more time than what we had.
Yeah, thank you so much. No problem.
My pleasure. I'm very happy.
I call our director, Sri Rohan ji, to give the vote of thanks, after which I will announce the forthcoming programs.
Okay, thank you. I'll wait.
Rohan?
Thank you, Benaz. Good evening, everyone. I am personally very connected to the triggers of stress that Acharya ji explained in his 2 sessions. Procrastination has always been an issue and a huge factor for stress for many of us. Arguments, as Acharya ji mentioned, stress is the word this. Keep what is external is the simplest way to overcome stress, as Acharya to lead our lives in harmony. I'm sure many of us could connect with the tips he shared and can apply in our daily lives. On this auspicious day, we heard a very nice prayer to the goddess Vara Mahalakshmi. We at Ritambara are blessed to hear from learned gurus like Sri Acharya Raghu Ganapati ji. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your valuable thoughts and making time from your schedule to join us. I'm truly grateful and look forward to many more from you. Thank you all for the lovely audience, for your presence week after week, for your patient hearing and questions, which always keeps us motivated to keep webinars for you. Keep joining in and keep sharing your feedback and recommendations on future sessions. Thank you. Have a good weekend. Stay safe and healthy.
Namaskar. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you, Rohan.
Thank you.
I would just like to tell everybody that's here about the programs that are coming up. On 2nd August, as usual, we have the yoga program at 7 a.m. and I will post that on the WhatsApp group. On 4th August, Tuesday, we have Mrs. Purva Dhanashri. She's taking us on a journey into Vilasini Natyam, a dance tradition of Telugu hereditary female dancer singers. So that's going to be an interesting session. And please watch out on 11th August. We have a very special program coming your way. Please block the date. So thank you all so much for your participation today. We look forward to seeing you again on Sunday and then again on Tuesday. So thank you all. And with that, we conclude today's session.
Thank you.
Namaste.